guys, my name is Morgan, and today we're going to be going over two-step equations and how to solve them. And we're also going to go through a math cheer, so how to remember what we've learned. So, let's talk about the rules of solving two-step equations. So the first step, or the first rule of solving these equations is to do the same on both sides of the equation. Do the same on both sides. So what you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other. Because if you don't, you can change your problem. And the second rule is to do the opposite of what you see. So, do the opposite. And I'll explain that in just a moment. So, let's go through our steps. So, I'm going to go through the steps and also write them down as we go. So, our first step is going to be add or subtract. This is where our second rule comes in. So, if I see addition, I'm going to subtract. If I see subtraction, I'm going to add. So our first step right here will be to subtract 3 from both sides of the equation. So now we are left with 2x equals 6. Okay, our second step over here will be to multiply or divide. So now we need to isolate our variable, and our variable is just a number. So x equals a number, and we're trying to solve for x, solve for that number. So now I'm going to divide on both sides of the equation. So now I'm left with x equals 3. Great. So we've solved for our variable, but our last step is to check our work. We need to make sure what we did actually makes sense. So we're going to go back over here, and we're going to insert our number that we found into our equation. So we're going to do 2 times 3 plus 3 equals 9. So now we said 2 times 3 is 6 plus 3 equals 9. So now we know that our equation is correct. Our variable is correct. Awesome. So now let's work this one together. What would be the first step we need to do for this equation? 5x minus 8 equals 22.
Add 8.
Yeah, exactly. So our first step is to add 8 to both sides of the equation. So what are we left with, Carson?
5x equals 30.
Absolutely. We have 5x equals 30. All right, what is our next step, Callie?
Divide by 5.
Divide by 5. We're going to try to isolate our variable. So we see multiplication, so 5 times x, and we're going to divide. So divide by 5 on both sides. And so what are we left with, Elena?
X equals 6.
X equals 6. Is that our last step? Are we done?
No, you have to check.
We have to check our work. So we're going to plug in our 6 to our beginning equation. So now we have 5 times 6 minus 8 equals 22. So 5 times 6, we just said equals 30, minus 8 equals 22. So now we know that our problem is correct. You guys are doing great. Let's do one more together. So 9 minus 2x equals 23. What's our first step?
Subtract 9.
We're going to subtract 9. So I know you might be confused and think subtract the 2x, but if a number is connected to that, we're not going to subtract it. So we're going to subtract our 9. We're going to do minus 9 here and minus 9 over here. So what are we left with, Carson?
Minus 2x equals 14.
Equals 14, absolutely. All right, so we're almost finished here. So what are we going to do now, Elena?
Do we divide by -2?
Yeah, we're going to divide by our -2. So make sure you keep your negatives and your positives straight. So we're dividing by this -2, which means we're going to cancel out our negatives, right? So what are we left with, Kelly?
X equals -7.
Minus 7, absolutely. We have a positive divided by a negative, so we're going to be kept with a negative. So now our last step is what altogether?
Check your work.
Check your work. So now we're going to do 9 minus 2 times -7 equals 23. A negative plus a negative is a positive. So 9 plus 14 equals 23. Are we correct?
Yes.
Yes.
We're correct. That's really good, guys. Okay, so now let's go through our math cheer. So repeat after me. Math is fun. Math is great.
Math is
Fun. Math is great.
Let's learn how to keep it straight.
Let's learn how to keep it straight.
What we do to one side, we must do the other.
What we do to one side, we must do to the other.
But if you don't, you could get the wrong number.
Because if we don't, we can get the wrong number.
Add, subtract, multiply, divide.
Add, subtract, multiply, divide.
Check your work to ensure it's right.
Check your work to ensure it's right.
Go Math!